this video, I'll be showing you how you can set up alarms in CloudMonitor. This time we'll be doing metric-based alarms, so we'll be creating an ECS instance, and then we'll be putting that instance through some stress tests to try to get its CPU and memory usage to go up, and we will define CPU and memory-based alarms in CloudMonitor that should trigger email alerts to happen when we run those tests. So let's jump right in and see how that's done. Hey there folks, I'm here in the CloudMonitor console, and today I want to show you how to do metric-based alerts in the CloudMonitor. So I want to show you how to create an alarm that will trigger when host metrics change. So we're going to go into host monitoring. You can see I've got a single instance here. The very first thing we need to do is actually install the CloudMonitor agent, which will let us get host level metrics like disk usage, memory usage, that kind of thing. By default, there are some other metric types like CPU usage available, but you get much more data if you install the agent. These all say not available because I've just rebooted the instance. These would start to populate a little bit. CPU usage would start to populate a little bit later, even if I don't install the agent, but memory and disk usage depend on the agent being installed. So let's go ahead and install that. And by the way, you do not need to have your servers hosted on Alibaba Cloud in order to use CloudMonitor's monitoring agent. If you see this button up here that says not Aliyun ECS install, if you click on that, it will actually give you operating system specific instructions for how to copy the installation command, which you can then paste into the command line on your server to install the agent. So you can monitor servers that are not hosted on Alibaba Cloud. If you are on Alibaba Cloud, the easiest way to install the agent is not using that method up there, but rather by clicking on the click to install button right here, which I've just done, and the agent's now installing. Let's go ahead and wait for that to finish and wait to get a little bit of data, and then we'll configure some alarms based on these instance metrics, and we'll try triggering them by running various stress test tools on our instance. So I've actually SSH'd into the instance. Whoops, I rebooted, so my connection got killed. All right, I've SSH'd into the instance, and I've actually got two tools installed here. iPerf, which allows me to basically arbitrarily use the network interface. It lets me generate arbitrary amounts of network traffic, and then stress, which will let me book up arbitrary amounts of RAM, so fill arbitrary amounts of the memory, and also create workers that just do busy work and use up the CPU, which will let us test CPU-based alarms. So we'll be playing with those commands in a little bit once this agent is installed. Let's just fast forward to once the agent is installed and working.
One eternity later.
Okay, so we're back here in the CloudMonitor console. We've got the agent installed. We'll go over to host monitoring here. Yeah, you can see that the agent is listed as running, so that worked. It's installed on our instance. The next thing we need to do is set up an alarm rule, so let's go do that. Let's see here. Okay, we've actually got an old rule. This is something from a previous demo that I ran, so I'm going to go ahead and delete this rule, and then we'll go ahead and make a few new rules. I plan to make one rule for CPU overuse and another rule for CPU underuse, which would be CPU utilization below 10%. So let's click on Create Alarm Rule, and we'll go set up some new rules. Okay, let's see here. Excuse me a moment while this loads. We're going to use, you can choose different products and resource ranges. I've chosen ECS in all resources, so any ECS will trigger these alarms that we're about to set up, regardless of the region or group. The first alarm will be CPU overuse. You can see that in the rule description I've chosen CPU.total, which is CPU usage. I'll say whenever the average is higher than 90% CPU use for 1 minute, then the rule will trigger. And then I'll configure a similar rule called CPU underusage that will trigger whenever the CPU usage is less than 10% for 1 minute. You can also set a mute period for rules so that they don't trigger repeatedly. I'm going to ignore that. I'll use the default contact group. You can fill in some remarks to put in the emails that get sent when these rules are triggered. Let's see, I don't think I need to write anything in there. And you can also configure HTTP callbacks to integrate CloudMonitor alarms with other systems. But we'll skip that and just hit confirm. Go back here, we should see two alarm rules showing up now, one for the overuse and one for the underuse. There they are. And you know what? I'm going to create one more rule here that should trigger whenever memory usage goes above a certain threshold. So again, the product is ECS, and the resource range is all resources. Let's see here, down in alarms, I'll go into the, first give it a name. So we'll call it high memory usage. And then under the rule description, I need to scroll down and find the memory related stuff. You can also search. There's a little search bar at the top. There's a lot of different things that are monitored by the host monitoring agent, the CloudMonitor agent. So you can pick lots and lots of different things. I'll just put in host mem used. This is collected by the Alibaba Cloud agent, the CloudMonitor agent, and I will say that if the memory used exceeds 2 gigabytes for one period of 1 minute, so if the usage exceeds 2 gigabytes for a minute, then send an alarm. Again, we'll send it to the default contact group, which is just my email, and then we'll click confirm. So we've now got 3 different rules we can play around with here, and let's go ahead and try triggering some of those and see what happens. This should be pretty interesting. Let me go ahead and go open up. I actually want to open up CloudMonitor twice so that I can show you both the dashboard where the metric results come in, so you can see what the CPU and memory utilization look like in near real time. And then I want to have another tab open so I can show you the alarm rule status, because the alarms page will show the alarm status as either okay or alarm, meaning the rule has been triggered. So I want to show you both of those things. So we'll just keep 2 tabs open here. Okay. Here we are. You can see that these are the current metrics for the instance. The instance really isn't doing much right now. We just set it up. We haven't logged into it, so it's been sitting around actually for a little while. I started the instance a few hours ago so that I'd have time to let some data get collected here. So if you look at the 6 or 12-hour graphs, you'll see that the instance more or less has been flatlined. There's no CPU activity, no high memory load at this time because the instance isn't doing anything. By the way, the stuff here in basic monitoring, you get this data even if you don't install the CloudMonitor agent because it's at the VM level, but OS and process monitoring here, which lists actual statistics for processes running on the machine, those both require the CloudMonitor agent to be installed. So there's a distinction in CloudMonitor. Actually, here you go. You can see we've got an alarm now for CPU under usage. That's good. All right. You can see that it's saying that the CPU usage looks like it's actually less than 1%, so pretty low. Great, so we got that alarm triggered. And if I refresh here my list of alarms, I should actually see that the CPU under usage alarm rule status is alarm, meaning that the alarm has been triggered. Let's actually try and go the opposite direction here, and I'll set a 10-minute stress task to spin up 4 threads using the stress command line tool that should cause the CPU stress to go way up, and then we'll wait a little bit, and we should see that jump. Okay, there you go. You can see that the CPU usage is starting to spike now. If you go into basic monitoring, you should see the same thing. Yeah, it looks like it spiked a little bit. Good. Okay, and you can see there are these 4 processes running here through the CloudMonitor agent process monitoring tool. You can actually see that stress has spawned 4 threads and that they're using the CPU. So that's actually working. We should actually get an email as well as a result of this. So let's see if that's happened yet. Great. It looks like we have actually received a CPU overusage alarm saying that CPU usage is at 100%. And we then got an underusage alarm. This is actually an older alarm from 4 minutes ago. This was before we started the stress task, so the emails might not come in order. Let's go ahead and try causing memory overusage. I'm going to look at the manual here for the stress tool because I'm not 100% familiar with it. Okay, here we are. There's the -M flag. And for each VM that we ask stress to spin up, it's going to use 256 megs of memory. Whoops. Shoot, what was that? Was it -VM or -M? Let me go take a look. Okay, let's see here. Oh, that's why. It's -M. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and run stress -M, and we'll dispatch 8 of these memory hogs, which should take up, I think, just about 2 gigs of RAM. Yeah, that's right. It would take up 2 gigs, and then we'll see if an alarm triggers. You can see that the CPU overusage alarm is still in the alarm state. That'll take a little while to go back to normal. If we wait a little while here, we should see the memory usage go up. Let's have a look at that. Let me scroll down a little bit here so you can see that. Let's refresh first. Okay, you can see that the CPU usage is still pretty high, but the memory usage is also starting to increase. We're only at 20% overall memory usage, though, because this instance, I believe, has 8 gigabytes of RAM. So we might actually have to use up a little bit more than... Also, we set our alarm rule for greater than or equal to 2 gigs. I might need to use a little bit more than 2 gigs to actually get the alarm rule to trigger. Maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll just spawn more VMs. Let's check first to see if we get an alarm. Okay, that's an old CPU overusage alarm. Let's refresh here. Okay, CPU overusage is still in the alarm state, and we're not using enough memory to trigger our memory alarm. So we might have to play with the stress tool a little bit. Let's see here. Let's have a look. Let me double check how much RAM this instance has as well, because I thought we'd be using more. Yeah, okay, it's 8 gigs. So we really are only using about 20% of the memory. So let's go back here, stress-m. I'll start 12 of these things. So now we should be using 3 gigs of RAM. This should definitely trigger our alarm roll. We'll wait a minute or two, and then we'll refresh the CloudMonitor console, and we'll see if this causes our memory overusage alarm to trigger, which it should. All right, so let's take a look. Here we are. That's much better. We're closer to using 30 to 40% of the memory on the machine. So that should definitely cause our alarm to trigger. If we go into process monitoring, you can see these 12 stress tasks running here. So that's good. If I go into my email, I have a couple new alarms. I have high memory usage. Great. And it looks like it's actually triggered twice. We've used about 2.5 gigs of RAM there. And then it triggered one more time when we got up to 2.11, or when we dropped down to 2.11 gigs. So yeah, actually it triggered a few times. So we were able to get that high memory usage alarm as we should. I can now stop that task, and that's it. That is how you set up and trigger metric-based alarms for ECS after installing the CloudMonitor agent. Let's just show that CPU overuse and high memory have recently been triggered. You can see that that's the case, and that CPU underusage is in the OK state. All right, you made it all the way through the video. Thanks for joining, and I hope to see you in the next one.